Hey everyone, first time poster here. So I feel like I'm stepping into a new world by putting this out there. I, 36-year-old female, found myself navigating a maze of emotions and legal steps after separating from my ex-husband, 37-year-old male, 9 months ago. It wasn't the easiest decision, but as many of you might understand, sometimes life just nudges you down paths you never imagined wandering. Filing for divorce wasn't straightforward. There were many complexities involved. With high-conflict situations rearing their ugly heads more often than I would have liked, I realized early on that I needed some legal guidance. So I sought out a lawyer, and unsurprisingly, my ex did the same. It felt a bit strange suddenly having this mediator to talk through our issues, but under the circumstances, it was a necessity. We share 2 wonderful kids together. They're twins and just 4 years old, such an energetic and curious age. From the get-go, our main goal was to ensure that they would be least affected by the shift in our family dynamics. After a lot of back and forth, we reached a custody agreement that seemed fair and workable for both of us. To put it simply, we thought we had a plan. In these last 9 months, my attempts at cooperative co-parenting have been tough. Unfortunately, that ideal picture of harmony and teamwork wasn't something we could sustain. Initially, there were some positive steps. We communicated schedules and tried to keep each other in the loop regarding the kids' activities. But as time moved on, our interactions dwindled, mostly because his responses became as rare as a peaceful morning with 2 4-year-olds in the house. I want to believe that at some point, we both genuinely tried our best to make it work for the sake of our children. But, as anyone who's been on this roller coaster can attest, efforts from one side aren't enough. It's disheartening when communication breaks down despite your best intentions. Seeing this friction and lack of engagement from him, I realized I needed to focus energy on my kids and on crafting a joyful, stable environment for them even more. They are at a stage where changes might confuse them or make them feel vulnerable, and all I want is to be the rock they can always hold on to. It's been challenging, but seeing them smile or hearing their laughter somehow makes the obstacles surmountable. There were times when I'd hear friends or family ask if he'd picked up the slack or shown up for crucial moments, and having to answer no more times than I cared to admit became exhausting. It served as frequent reminders of what I wished were different. For those who haven't gone through this, I can't stress enough how emotionally taxing it is, especially when kids are involved. They're perceptive little beings. It's more complex and layered than simply having an absent co-parent or rearranging weekly schedules. It starts to hover over every interaction, over each bedtime story and every school event you show up to alone. It becomes a shadow that blurs the lines of what was once a family and what is now a brave new path alone. So, that's a snapshot of where I'm coming from, trying to juggle these new circumstances while keeping my kids buoyant in the waves of uncertainty. All these small incidents compile into a bigger narrative, setting the scene for the storm that loomed over us, pushing my ex deeper into his struggles and further away from the kids. Within the last 5 months, everything seemed to take a turn for the worse. My ex-husband started down a path that was both startling and heartbreaking. It felt like he was lost in a tempest, unable to find his way back to the calm shore. He distanced himself further, canceling all his scheduled visits with our children. This wasn't just an occasional cancellation. This became a pattern. First, it seemed as though he was just dealing with stress, or perhaps adjusting to our new normal, but soon his behavior took a steep dive. The cancellations turned into complete no-shows. Silence replaced any form of regular communication, leaving me to face one missed visit after another, the absence piercing each moment I had to explain to our eager twins that their dad would not be coming again. Then, the pieces of a troubling puzzle started falling into place. I learned through mutual friends that he had checked himself into a rehab facility. The news hit me like a tidal wave. It explained so much, yet left even more questions hanging in the air. After completing his initial rehab program, I was cautiously hopeful that this would be a chance for a fresh start. It was a hope I clung to, for his sake, and more importantly, for the children's well-being. However, only 3 days after his release, he relapsed. It was as if no time had passed since he first sought help. He vanished again, missing another visit without any explanation or a word to his own lawyer. The day we were set to address these issues in court, he was absent, throwing our attempts at solidifying new custody terms into disarray. Later that very day, I was driving along a familiar route when my heart dropped at the sight. I recognized his car. A heap of metal crashed in a ditch, along with the scattered papers and remnants of what once were his possessions. It was suspected this accident was a consequence of another poor choice, possibly driving under the influence. Seeing the car like this was a jarring emblem of his downward spiral and the dangers wrapped in his choices. Concerned whispers and rightful suspicions from those around began to mount, when he failed to show at the court hearing meant to address the custody agreement and his substance issues. It became clear he was in a deeper struggle than I'd realized. Just a few weeks following the crash, news came that he had returned to rehab. For the second time, hope flickered with thoughts of recovery and renewal, but skepticism lingered, casting long shadows over this brief glimmer. Questions about accountability, responsibility, and the impact on our children were now blurred lines wearily trod in our torn family fabric. The times between resolutions and relapses shrank dramatically. While we quietly hoped for a change, the cycle of absenteeism continued, further hurting his relationship with our kids and complicating any attempts from my side to maintain a stable environment for them. Each missed visit, each unanswered call, compounded into a testament of blocks being laid against their innocence. Gradually forming a wall patched by confusion and hurt, they're too young to comprehend fully. Amidst this turmoil, the world he was spinning in felt overwhelmingly out of control to me. The swirling chaos he was caught in didn't merely affect him, it rippled through our lives, coloring interactions and marking moments. Fear that the spiral would imprint on our twins' tender hearts urged me to dig deeper into being both their solid ground and a beacon through our shared storm. This whirlwind, pulling tighter twists, forced me to face hard realities, ones that begged me to steel myself against the brewing storm. I knew that while he was in rehab, I had to keep shielding our children from his tumult until he was back, steady, and hopefully ready to confront the duties of parenting once more. To this day, he has been absent from our children's lives since January. Those initial steps away from them turned into leaps, his presence now a distant memory for our twins rather than the reality they need. The irony of time passing without remedy left its mark on our family, and not in subtle ways. Each week, the gap of his presence grew, leaving more questions than answers, the kind a child should never have to ask or ponder. In our home, questions now lingered in the air, tangible and ever-present like silent specters. Sometimes, the twins' hopeful eyes would look out the window, scanning for a familiar figure that never appeared. Their innocence clashed painfully with the burgeoning truths they were too young to dissect or comprehend. "Why doesn't Dad come anymore?" Tiny voices asked with sincerity that cut deeper than any simple response could satisfy. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I couldn't deny that these repetitive disappointments strung together stripped away some of their innate joy. Observing them, I noticed subtle shifts. They were becoming more withdrawn, their laughter tempered with cautious uncertainty, their nighttime routines interspersed with anxiety-filled moments. It seemed like shadows of unspoken fears of abandonment loomed over their little world, disrupting their childhood rhythm. I began to see behavioral changes suggesting the impact these events were having on them. A new hesitance in social interactions, emotional outbursts over simple misunderstandings. The once vibrant enthusiasm for stories or adventures was sometimes overshadowed by unexplained resistance and weariness. These signs were clear voices pushed into my heart, echoing resolve. Something needed to change. So with concern laced firmly with hope, I turned towards support. Play therapy became not just a resource, but a necessity, a gentle bridge aimed at helping them articulate feelings and navigate this confusing journey. A way to hopefully patch wounds quietly inflicted by routine dishonors of pledged visits, by standing in front of empty doors when knocks were meant to herald embraces. Understanding their needs compelled me to act, securing professional help to guide us through this challenging transition. I sought to create spaces where their voices could be heard, their hearts understood without judgment, and their spirits gently molded back towards confidence and excitement about the world around them. I wanted them to regain their voice, replace questions with smiles, and build resilience against a backdrop I wished wasn't part of their story. Their well-being became my compass, directing each decision with precision born of love and necessity. There was an unyielding resolve, a mother's intuition steering through the tempest, determined to chart a course out of the shadows clinging to their innocence and guiding us all towards brighter, more assured paths together. All of this came to a head when I was granted sole legal and physical custody of the kids. It was a bittersweet victory. On one hand, the court acknowledged the gravity of our situation and supported the path I felt was necessary for my children's safety and growth. On the other hand, the reality of being the sole guardian was a weighty crown, a constant reminder of the fractured family unit we once were. When my ex found out about my efforts to get our kids into therapy, his reaction was swift and defensive. He questioned why therapy was necessary and what specific issues our kids were experiencing. I patiently explained the subtle yet noticeable behavioral changes, the growing hesitancy, and the emotional outbursts that had arisen in his absence. This was not a personal attack, but rather an honest assessment of the ripple effects his absence had caused. Our discussion quickly intensified as he accused me of blaming him entirely for the situation. It was a long, drawn-out conversation, one that revealed a chasm between our perceptions. I tried to convey that it wasn't about assigning blame, but rather about acknowledging the impact of his actions and working towards healing. Yes, his repeated absence had affected the kids, and yes, it was causing them distress. They needed and deserved support. However, that explanation seemed to fall on deaf ears. In a move that felt more like a demand than a request, he asked me to update him regularly on how their therapy progresses, which I agreed to do. Transparency, after all, can sometimes foster healing. Yet, he went further, demanding copies of the doctor's notes from their sessions, asserting his rights as their father. And while he does remain their father in title, legally speaking, I am not obligated to furnish him with those records. The privacy of our children during their healing journey was a principle I held tightly. Despite their young age, I firmly believed they should have a space free from oversight where their feelings could be explored safely. I remained resolute, feeling that his interest might stem more from a concern about his perception than a true desire to aid in their recovery. It was a challenging position, juggling legal rights with the heart's instinct to shield and protect, but one I felt deeply committed to navigating for the sake of our kids. From a legal standpoint, I do not have any obligation to provide any information or documentation to him, especially since I have full legal custody. More crucially, I believe in upholding the privacy and sanctity of the therapeutic environment our children deserve. My stance isn't to exclude him out of spite or malice, but rather to safeguard a space where our children can express their emotions, free from any external pressure or expectations. His need for detailed records seemed less about genuine concern for the kids and more about controlling the narrative of his struggles. Given the nature of our past interactions, I have reasons to believe he's attempting to shift the focus from his own accountability to dissecting how he might be portrayed by professional assessments. My main priority is to ensure our children have a safe environment to navigate their feelings. Already they've been burdened by scenarios beyond their actual comprehension, little hearts trying to make sense of a turbulent world. I want to assure them that their thoughts and feelings are not just echoes in a chamber, but are heard, respected, and valued. While I continue to inform him of their general progress, I draw the line at surrendering their personal insights gathered through therapy. As a mother navigating the precarious waters of solo parenting and co-parenting with someone battling demons, my compass remains fixed on my children's well-being above all else. Ensuring they have a voice and space to safely explore their emotions is a cornerstone of this healing journey we're on together. With every twist and turn, I strive to shield their young minds from further disruption, fostering a foundation of trust and understanding. It's not about keeping my ex-husband at arm's length, but about rooting these moments in love and support, which is paramount for their healthy development. I'm constantly weighing the ripple effects of each decision, and ultimately, my loyalty is to our children's holistic growth. Hence, in holding back their detailed therapeutic insights, I'm prioritizing their well-being above satisfying someone's curiosity or perceived rights. I recognize this might seem selfish to some, but I believe standing firm on this decision is in their best interest. Analyzing their feelings should never turn into a battleground for parental disputes. Am I in the wrong for this decision?